Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to the stage the founder and CEO of Unreasonable Group, Mr. Daniel Epstein.
Well, today I have to say that I'm feeling humbled to be here. I'm feeling damned excited to be in this room, but above all else, I'm feeling a debt of gratitude. And I'm feeling immense gratitude for a number of people here. And the first one is our co-founders and co-creators of Unreasonable Impact, our friends at Barclays. I also want to thank everybody here who's in this room today, because you're taking time out of busy afternoons to join us, but also to the tens of thousands of individuals who are live streaming from around the world through our Facebook feed and through CBS, for joining us as we hear the stories of some truly remarkable entrepreneurs. That's my last debt of gratitude. It's to these entrepreneurs, to these rare individuals who have dedicated their lives to solving the seemingly intractable challenges of our time. And they'll be taking the stage here for the rest of the afternoon. But before we get there, feeling this debt of gratitude, I feel like I owe you all a favor, and that is to rationalize a seemingly irrational name. Why is this called Unreasonable Impact? Why am I the CEO of an organization called Unreasonable Group? And it's largely attributable to this man behind me. This is the Irish playwright, George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw is famous for saying that the reasonable man adapts himself to the world, the unreasonable one persists in adapting the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable individual. Now, if George Bernard Shaw is right, if all progress depends on unreasonable people, then we can't afford not to bet on the world's most unreasonable individuals. In a world where nearly 2 billion people live on less than $2 a day, in a world where 770 million individuals wake up without access to clean drinking water, in the world we live in today, where over 1 billion people don't have access to electricity, we can't afford not to bet on unreasonable individuals, which begs the question, who are the most unreasonable people, the most unreasonable individuals of our time? And to us, the answer is very simple. At Barclays, at Unreasonable Group, we believe it's entrepreneurs. Now, this word, I've written it thousands of times, but it is an incredibly hard to spell word. And the reason it's so difficult is its roots are French. And it can be interpreted to mean to take into one's own hands. This is why we so desperately believe in entrepreneurs. Because where most of the world sees issues and catastrophe and problems, entrepreneurs look at the exact same thing and they see solutions to those same problems. Where we see market failures, they see market opportunities. Where we see the impossible, they create the possible. And that's really why we're here today at the Royal Institution. Now, arguably, there is no better place to be having this conversation than here at the Royal Institution of Great Britain. Royal Institution was founded in 1799 with a very simple mission. It was to focus on education and science, to focus on discovery and new inventions. And how they went about that activity was exactly what we are doing today. They would bring together great minds from all around the world. They would convene, and they would share their ideas, share their discoveries, and discuss them. And the real magic happened outside of the walls of the institution. Actually, electricity was connected into the grid because of scientists and conversations that were brought here at the Royal Institution. 15 Nobel laureates have come out of the Royal Institution. And I would argue that a couple of the entrepreneurs who take the stage today are going to add to that number. This is the place where ideas were shared and then catalyzed beyond the walls of this building to go out and change the world. And it reminds me of a quote by the cultural anthropologist Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead made claim that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. It's this belief, it's this realization that a small group of people can go out there, catalyze change, and change the course of history that drove us to founding Unreasonable Impact. Now, Unreasonable Impact was designed not just with this belief, but also a couple strong intentions. And the first one was to look at entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs who will take stage today, as future job creators. Every single company who's going to come here and tell you their story, they are businesses positioned to create at least 500 jobs in the next 5 years. This is important. According to Oxford, 47% of the jobs that exist today by 2035 will not exist. Nearly half of all jobs that exist today will not exist in 2035, so who is going to create them? We see entrepreneurs as job creators and as the job creators of today and tomorrow. The second intention of Unreasonable Impact was to not just look at entrepreneurs as job creators, but to specifically align with companies and handpick entrepreneurs who are solving society's hardest problems. The very few entrepreneurs who we believe will be remembered by future generations as having helped define progress in our time. And so we found a small group of committed individuals, committed citizens, who we believed could change the world. We've aligned this last year, we're only a year into this partnership, with 35 entrepreneurs working across Asia, the UK, and the Americas, and they are out to change the world. This is some of the statistics. 35 entrepreneurs. Today, they're generating over $300 million in revenue. They've raised nearly $700 million in financing. They are employing over 7,000 individuals. Most notably, their products and services that you will all hear about today, they're impacting the lives of over 140 million individuals, not just here, but worldwide, across 181 countries. These entrepreneurs, this small group of committed citizens, we believe, is on a path towards bending the arc of history in the right direction. And we get the distinct privilege of being on that journey with them, not just hearing their stories, but joining them on that journey from here and moving forward. As you can tell from the logo, and as I've mentioned a number of times, this partnership was co-created with Barclays. And what I want to make really clear is this is not a sponsorship relationship. This is a co-founded partnership between entrepreneurs and one of the largest financial institutions of our time, and it is that marriage that we believe can catalyze real change. And so before we introduce all of the companies and get to meet these entrepreneurs, I have the pleasure of introducing you to a team member from Barclays, Bob Thorne, who's going to come up here and tell us a little bit about why Barclays has co-founded Unreasonable Impact. So warm round of applause for Bob.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. My name is Bob Thorne. I'm almost a lifer at Barclays, over 30 years. And I'm part of a team which is actually affectionately called the Senior Relationship Management Team. And we infiltrate a lot of the major clients of the organization top down to see where we can help them and integrate them in not only what Barclays can do, but what other people can share. This is a very exciting day for us. I mean, this is the inaugural meeting of this organization, partnership with Barclays, and you have got the exclusive chance to see, for the first time, some of the brilliant ventures that are actually out there. We were very lucky yesterday to get a little bit of an insight into it, and you are in for a real treat. Absolutely amazing. And if you can't come away from this feeling empowered by some of the stuff that they're doing, then you haven't seen enough of them. Why is Barclays doing this? Well, Barclays is very much in the same mission. We recognize that there's change out there. We recognize that we need to work on the scalability. And as Daniel said, you know, one of the things we're going to see as we go forwards is the creation of jobs is going to come very much from entrepreneurs and not from the big behemoths that you see at the moment. So the ability for us to input into the challenge of helping these people, to use our Rolodexes to actually see if we can get the right people in front of them to actually grow this is incredibly important. So one of the things I will say to you today, this has got to be interactive. You're all part of the solution. So please, please, don't be shy. Make sure you talk to these people. If you've got contacts that can help, we really need to hear. There's lots of Barclays people here. There's a place where you can actually talk to our impact experts, our fintech experts. I really encourage you to spend some time with them, as well as these fabulous entrepreneurs which are, you know, creating things which are going to solve some of the problems of our planet, from, you know, clean water to sustainable energy. So it's a very exciting day. Now, to start the day off, we've got a short film, I think, which will hopefully get us into the journey. So thank you very much.
Unreasonable Impact is a global movement designed around empowering the world's most sustainable, fast-growing entrepreneurs with the resources and the tools and the network that they need to create at least 500 jobs in the next 5 years. We have co-designed and co-created Unreasonable Impact with Barclays. We believe that if you get the right people into the same space for an extended period of time, that we will see unlikely, uncommon breakthroughs. Welcome to the first ever program at Unreasonable Impact.
The cars that are being currently made are heavy, they're polluting, and the car companies are spewing them out, 300,000 at a time. Riversimple is a sustainable car company currently pioneering hydrogen fuel cell cars, and we're dedicated to systematically pursuing the elimination of the environmental impact of personal transport.
Right now, there is no commercially viable way to generate fusion energy and get it on the grid. That's what we are trying to do. If we can figure out the scientific challenges, then we have the ability to create clean, abundant, and safe energy effectively forever.
If we want to find what is happening now on this planet, it's very difficult. In AccelGlobe, we are making small satellites to monitor the entire world every day. It generates a huge number of applications.
Entrepreneurship is hard. They need as much support as they can possibly have. And so throughout the 2 weeks of this program, we're matching the entrepreneurs with specialists and mentors.
So the thing I'm trying to teach them is to be able to rapidly experiment and really work with reality as the medium of problem solving.
If I don't believe the logic, the number's irrelevant. Focus on the logic, not the numbers.
We can be quite helpful challenging business strategies, being sounding boards.
When we're in one of these deep dives, the level of commitment is fantastic. Really thinking hard about the problem.
What has been your funding journey to date? And then what is your next funding stage?
We'll be running what we're calling a brain trust gathering with about 80 senior employees at Barclays who all want to help these entrepreneurs solve their key challenges faster. The second day, we'll be running a demo day designed to align these companies with key individuals who can support their growth.
I'm interested in a few of the companies because they're very commercially viable, but also having a strong social impact.
It's vital that we address this urgent challenge of unemployment. All businesses, banks in particular, need strong, healthy, growing communities to be a successful, strong, healthy, growing business.
They're really all inspiring. It's incredible to me that they have the courage to forge ahead and lead these companies.
In terms of the relationship with Unreasonable Group, I think it has to be multi-year and hopefully sort of 10 years plus.
If this community can really support each other into the long term, these people will bend history in the right direction. Hopefully that gave you a little taste of what this partnership is all about. But the best way to bring all of this to life is to bring the entrepreneurs to stage and to have them share their stories with you. And so we're going to have multiple waves today. We're going to get introduced to 27 brilliant, game-changing ideas. And I'm willing to bet a wager with anybody here that at least 2 of them are going to win Nobel Prizes in the next decade. And so we have the privilege of hearing those stories at the onset. The first wave of entrepreneurs, we're going to be looking at the future of energy and communications. One thing that I'm going to ask everybody in this room to do is you can't feel this stage, but it's a little bit intimidating because normally on a stage we'd be looking down and out. Now we're looking up and you're all surrounding us and swarming above us. And so to make these entrepreneurs feel comfortable, to make them feel like they can really be themselves, what I'm going to ask you to do is change your posture. I'm gonna ask you not to lean back in your comfy seats, but to sit on the edges of your chairs, and I'm actually literally telling you this. So if you're in this room, or if you're tuning in live stream, just because it'll be more fun, sit on the edges of your chairs. As the entrepreneur makes a joke, laugh at the joke. As they say something nice, smile. If you want to applaud for them because they hit a big statistic, the impact of 10 million people's lives, applaud in the middle of the talk. It's okay. We want this to be two ways. We want this to be fun. This is hard to do. They have 3.5 minutes to tell you their life's work. And for many of these entrepreneurs, English is not their first language. So we're going to need your help to take them there. The first entrepreneur I have the distinct privilege of welcoming to the stage is Caitlin Powers with her company, One Earth Designs. Let's give Caitlin a very warm round of applause.
Hello, London. Hello. 1952. 1952 was the year of the Great London Smog, when air pollution from coal-fired heating became so bad that it killed 12,000 Londoners and hospitalized 100,000 more in just 5 days. Imagine coming home to a house filled with the London smog. Today, this is the situation, this is the reality for 2.8 billion people. I've spent the past 10 years working in homes like this, where the air is 10 times more polluted than the air in Beijing, simply from cooking the afternoon meal, and where families struggle for hours every day to collect enough fuel for cooking and heating. Energy poverty is an enormous global problem. And as I've worked on it, I had a realization that changed everything. If we were to pull everyone out of poverty today, we would need 5 Earths worth of energy resources. Fossil fuels can't sustain this. Hydropower can't sustain this. In fact, the only energy source that can is the sun. My company, One Earth Designs, has developed a new system that harnesses 92% of the sun's energy, 6 times more than a traditional solar panel. By using this technology to make the world's most efficient solar-powered stoves, we've already helped 30,000 people across the Himalayas access clean energy and tapped into a $100 billion global clean cooking market. We've also brought our SolSource solar-powered stoves to customers in 68 other countries, including outdoor enthusiasts in the United States and here in Europe. If you want one, you can get one on Amazon. We've already made award-winning breakthroughs in harnessing solar energy. And now we're working with MIT to make key breakthroughs in how to store it. Our solar storage cells are like Tesla Powerwall for the other 99%. At 1/50th the price, our technologies, thank you. Our technologies meet more energy demands at higher efficiencies. It's optimized not just for electricity, but for the full energy needs of the home, including cooking and heating. In India alone, 78 million families currently spend an average of $8 per day on polluting cooking fuels. That's $7.5 billion per year. Alongside our partners at Tata Trusts, we're working with local businesses to provide convenient, renewable energy at this price or below. It works like this. SolSource harnesses 7 kilowatt hours of energy per day, and only a tiny fraction of that is required for cooking. When not used for cooking, SolSource acts as a charging station for our batteries, storing 92% of the incoming solar energy for later use in the home. Families can cook the same food in the same pots using the same cooking techniques. They can heat, cool, and light their homes with the sun 24 hours per day. Our system has the potential to save money for 78 million families in India and enable 1.5 million new businesses. And that's just in India. Imagine what we can do by bringing these technologies to the rest of the world. Simply put, our system harnesses more solar energy per square foot than any other product on the market. And our new battery technologies enable people to cook, heat, and cool with the sun, even when the sun isn't shining. With these 2 new technologies, We aim to help people around the world step forward out of the dark age of fossil fuels and into the age of sunlight. Ladies and gentlemen, One Earth Designs. Thank you.
Thank you, Catelyn, for kicking us off with style with the world's most efficient solar concentrator. We're now going to go from solar, we're going to look at another energy source, and that is hot water. And the entrepreneur who's going to tell us all about that is Alan, and his company is Irrigation. He's coming from Ireland. Let's give him a very warm welcome.
Thank you. I wrote a kid's novel set in 2096 when Earth is completely covered in water due to climate change. It's more humorous than it sounds. And I do readings in schools, and I'd explain to my 10-year-old audience that the reason I set the book in 2096 is because that is the world that they will bequeath to their kids and to their grandkids. And then I had a child of my own, and I decided to stop talking about climate change and to do something. And the best way to do that was by solving a big problem. Now, there is a global wasted energy resource that's worth more than twice the energy output of Saudi Arabia: hot water. It's found in most industrial engines and the radiators, in shipping, in geothermal, in nuclear, and in solar thermal. And there's no commercial solution to converting this wasted resource into power. And that's where Irrigation comes in. So we have developed an engine that runs on hot water. It will solve the great electricity trilemma of producing low-cost, clean, 24/7 electricity. I should have been moving that. And generally, with wind and solar, they run for 1,000 to 3,500 hours per year, and our engine will run for over 8,000. And the value of our targeted market, and that's being reasonably conservative. We've already signed an MOU with one company that could be worth over 13 billion euro over 20 years. And what really gets our team excited is that our product could have a big effect on reducing global carbon emissions. And apologies for the penguin photo. So how do we do it? Well, we're using one of the only materials in the universe that contracts when heated. It's called shape memory alloy, SMA. And a meter-long length of this wire, when heated, could lift 4 of me up off the ground by about 4 centimeters. So it's very powerful. And in our system, we circulate hot water at 90 degrees centigrade and then cold water over the SMA. The SMA contracts and expands, moving a piston, which works on hydraulic fluid, which powers a generator, which produces electricity. So it's beautifully simple. No, it is. It is actually. That wasn't a joke. Here's a picture of one of our early prototypes on the left, and we produced grid-quality electricity from the hot water coming out of the biogas plant on the right. So we've already proved the fundamentals of our technology, and what remains is to prove the economics. And we have major companies such as Cummins lined up to do paid trials, and we'll begin high-volume production from about 2020. Protection, always important, and we're very well protected. That was a joke. But no. Our competition, it's been around since the 1960s. In identical operating conditions, comparatively, we will be half the cost, 3 times the efficiency, greener, and easier to install. So, in summary, we've already created electricity from hot water, and we can do the same for thousands of companies, be they ships, where they pump hot water around the hull in order to cool it, or geothermal companies whose businesses we can transform. We are going to do this and change the world well before 2096. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Space memory alloy, potentially the coolest material I've ever heard of. Doesn't sound simple, but it is brilliantly simple. The next entrepreneur is from our US program. So we met one entrepreneur from our Asia program, one from the UK cohort, and now we're going to go to the United States. And we're going to meet Ben Glass, who is solving a problem that we can all relate to. Occasionally, your mobile phones don't have great reception. He's trying to change that for you and everybody on the planet with his company, Alteros. Warm round of applause for Ben.
How you guys all doing today? All right. So quick show of hands, who here owns a smartphone? I'm pretty certain every hand should go up. So if you've driven through the country or gone camping, you kind of have a good idea that as you get outside of the big cities, cell reception is really pretty terrible. And for most of the people in this room, it's annoying, it's a nuisance, but it's not such a big problem. But for the 4 billion people that are living offline today, that's actually a huge problem. These people who are predominantly in rural parts of the world really lack access to the economic opportunities, to access to healthcare information, to educational opportunities that we all take for granted. But in addition to a really big humanitarian problem, this is also an enormous opportunity to rejuvenate this enormous telecom industry that's really seen pretty anemic growth over the last 4 years. Despite the fact that they're plowing over $30 billion a year into expanding their rural networks, trying to bring in more rural customers, you really see that the growth has stalled because it's just so expensive to build these rural networks and serve the underserved populations. So let's take a quick look at how this is done today. Typically, everyone's seen them. You've got these 30 to 40 meter tall, basically steel poles in the ground. And they can cover about 90 square kilometers. Give you a sense of scale, it's about 1.5 times the size of Manhattan. So this is, it's a pretty inefficient, expensive way to cover these huge rural areas. We think there's a better way to do it. So we've taken the same radios and antennas and put it on a tethered aerostat, or tethered balloon, and lift it to about 8 times higher than those typical cell towers. Does anyone want to guess how many Manhattans we can cover with each one of these? So someone's got to guess. 10? So we can cover 60 Manhattans with every single installation. And so this is a much easier way to build these rural networks. By consolidating so many towers into a single site, we cut out 50 to 70% of the cost of building and running a rural network. We can deploy much quicker, bring in new technologies like LTE Advanced and 5G, and we can do all of that with twice the energy efficiency of traditional tower-based infrastructure. So in a nutshell, this is kind of the very simple cartoon of how it works. We've developed the world's first autonomous aerostat, which is basically just a tethered balloon, but we don't need any crew there on site to operate it, and that's really the key to making it cheap enough to use in the telecom sector. With that system, again, we mount the radios and antennas onto the balloon, connected to the ground with a number of tethers, and we're able to deploy up to 250 meters above ground. Our goal with this is really to help the carriers profitably expand into the rural market so that together we can leverage the forces of capitalism to really make a big dent in bridging the digital divide. So to that end, I'm really excited to announce that the system that you see above me is actually broadcasting an LTE signal as we speak, allowing people at our rural Maine test site to actually connect to the internet, watch YouTube videos, check their email, basically do anything that you would want online. Moving forward, we're actually working with some of the biggest carriers in the US to deploy the first commercial trial systems next year. And then beyond that, we'll be deploying in India, Africa, Latin America, really all over the world to help billions of people come to the modern age. So with that, thank you.
It actually looked like the blimp was above Ben when he was standing here. It was up there. So autonomous aerostats. We've heard about space memory alloys, solar concentrators. Now we're going to go into space, literally. We're going to hear from an entrepreneur from Japan. His name is Yuya, and he's working on the future of satellites. Let's give Yuya a very warm round of applause.
Guess what? This is an artificial microsatellite. So we call it a microsatellite. It's so small, so you can put it on your palm. The microsatellite was developed by university students, and I was lucky enough to get involved in this exciting project. And the microsatellite was launched in 2003 and worked quite well in orbit to send us beautiful photos of the Earth. It was really a fascinating moment as an engineer in the making. I experienced multiple microsatellite missions while at the university, and when I graduated, I really wanted to make more satellites, practical ones. However, I couldn't find any company doing such business. So I made up my mind to start a new company, Axelspace. After we founded the company in 2008, we won a contract about the development of a dedicated microsatellite for Weather News, which is a Japanese private company. They used it to monitor ice distribution in the Arctic Ocean to provide a navigation service to vessels sailing there. And this became the world's first purely commercial microsatellite. And we have launched 3 microsatellites so far as a company to establish a solid track record. And 2 years ago, we decided to make a giant leap forward. We raised $17 million to start a new initiative called AccelGlobe. In this project, we plan to launch as many as 50 microsatellites to monitor the whole world on a daily basis. This is a new generation Earth monitoring platform, and we believe that AccelGlobe will help solve a wide range of social and environmental problems. Let me show you some examples. This is the Amazon rainforest. Only in this decade, 900,000 square miles of the forest was lost around the world. And surprisingly, 80% of such logging activities are said to be illegal. This is Larsen C ice shelf in the Antarctica. It is reported that a 1 trillion-ton iceberg broke off the Antarctica a few months ago, probably due to the global warming. And these are what we can see from space. We can track even slight changes on the planet with AccelGlobe. There would be thousands more potential applications across a wide range of industries where AccelGlobe can give some additional values. Environment, forestry, agriculture, mapping, urban planning, and energy are part of the examples. And I really want to collaborate with potential partners, including all of you here, to create a new infrastructure. Sensing the world, changing the future. That's the slogan of AccelGlobe project. Thank you.
So yes, they will map the entire world every single day, but don't worry, it's down to a couple square meters, which means we can't actually spy on people. They're not bypassing any of the international laws on that. Thank you so much, Yuya, for that amazing introduction to your work. Next entrepreneur I'm going to welcome to the stage is taking us from space back to the ground. He's operating across the African continent and India, focused on solving that statistic I mentioned around rural electrification. Let's give a very warm welcome to Patrick with Greenlight Planet.
Most of us take for granted the fact that in our homes we have access to electricity. But 1 in 5 people on our planet doesn't have access to a reliable electrical grid. These people can't refrigerate their food, they can't power a computer, charge their mobile phone, or even turn on a fan when it gets too hot. I was exposed to this problem for the first time back in college when I was doing some charitable work in rural India. And if you go to a home that doesn't have access to electricity, one of the first things you'll see is that people have to use kerosene lamps to light their homes. The kerosene fuel is smoky, it's dangerous, it causes fires, and more interestingly, one of the first things that people said when we came to do this charitable work and offer donations to solve this problem, people said, look, we don't need a handout. We're already spending a fortune on this kerosene. People are spending 5–10% of their income. They said, what we need is a better product. We need something to replace this old-fashioned technology. And so together with some friends from college, I started a company called Greenlight Planet. And in 2009, we launched our first product, the Sun King Solar Lantern. And I'm proud to say that today, 25 million people are lighting their homes with the Sun King Solar Lantern. So it's been great so far, but like I said, these are consumers. They're not charity cases. And people want access to all of the modern appliances that we have in the West. They don't just want light. They want to be able to charge their phones. They want to be able to have music, refrigeration. They want to be able to watch television. So yesterday, if you wanted to power all of those appliances, you needed to have access to the electrical grid. And the sad reality is that even if you have an electrical line running very close to your home in, say, rural sub-Saharan Africa, the cost of just installing one electrical pole and doing the installation work is $500 to $1,000 just to get that electricity into the home. And it's expensive to maintain. It's just the old-fashioned electrical grid is too expensive for people. So we set out to build solar home systems that are easy to use. They're so easy to use that the same 10-year-old who's going to study using the light from these products can actually install the system in the home. And these products are doing really well. They start with entry-level systems, and they range up to systems with more and more appliances. And we're not just offering these products, we're now offering financing. So using mobile money, people can make payments over time, and they can own a solar home system after 8 months by paying just 50 cents a day. So it's on par with the cost that they were paying for just a single kerosene lamp. And now they have power in their whole home for multiple lights, appliances, and this intractable problem is now, we're actually leapfrogging the electrical grid and taking people straight from kerosene to modern, sustainable alternatives that are also more affordable than the status quo. So this is, it's been a life's work for my colleagues and I, and it's really exciting to see this finally catching stride. There are a few companies in our industry chasing this same opportunity, and I think our products are second to none in terms of quality, affordability, and the after-sales service that we offer to consumers. It's taken us a long time to figure out how to do all those things efficiently. So now we're efficient enough that we've been profitable for 2 years, and we've demonstrated that we can do this at an incredible scale in a way that's actually profitable. So we're able to leverage capital from institutions that have goals that are well aligned with our own, and it's just such an exciting time to be part of this industry. But we need your help. Whether you're an innovator, an entrepreneur, an investor, or critically, a last-mile distributor who has access to the consumers who need these products, we want to talk to you. We need to go from tens of millions of people to hundreds of millions of people. And together, we can solve this problem and provide energy access for every single one of those billion people who needs it. Thank you very much.
An idealistic college student launches a company and profitably brings solar to 25 million people, living on less than $5 a day. That's pretty remarkable. But the next entrepreneur I'm going to welcome up here is just as remarkable in an entirely different way. When I was researching the Royal Institution, I read that there were a number of scientists here who tried to crack the science of alchemy. How do you create some gold out of something that was formerly worthless? Nobody could succeed at that. But the entrepreneur who's going to come to stage, her name's Jennifer. I believe she's not an entrepreneur. She is a modern-day alchemist, and she'll tell you all about that. Let's give her a very warm round of applause.
I'm going to start by asking each of you to calculate how old you will be in the year 2050. Hold that thought. I hope not. Hold that thought. I was born in Colombia, arguably one of the best coffee-growing regions in the world, as shown by red on this slide. By the year 2050, Colombia will not be a coffee-growing economy. In fact, more than 60% of the world's coffee-growing ability will be gone by the year 2060. I will be 90 in 2050, and I hope to still be around. They tell us climate change is about sea level rise. They tell us it will happen in our children's generation. Climate change is a fundamental change to our ecosystem, to our way of life, and it will happen in our lifetimes. So how do we delay this future? In my mind, we have to put ourselves on a really strict carbon diet and only use carbon where we absolutely have to. I would argue that energy can already be carbon-free. However, transportation will still require fuels, especially aviation, which will require it for decades to come. all of our household goods are made from carbon. That baby buggy, those children's shoes, we have to reserve carbon for those things. And I would also argue that we must stop taking carbon from a one-way street from the ground to our atmosphere. And instead, we have to focus on recycling carbon. And that's exactly what we do at LanzaTech. We recycle carbon. You're used to the fermentation of sugar. You're used to getting beer because the yeast can ferment sugar. What our organism does is it ferments waste gas emissions, like from a steel mill, like from a refinery. And it recycles that carbon, and instead of letting it up in the air, it turns it into ethanol. You can use that ethanol for your car, and we've learned how to convert that ethanol into jet fuel. And next year, Virgin Atlantic will fly our fuel on their plane, showing that recycled carbon can be used for aviation. We're also learning how to convert those waste gases to chemicals that will eventually end up in your yoga pants and your children's toys. Yes, I guarantee it. And this sounds like science fiction, I know, but it's not. This is a picture of a 100,000 gallon per year demonstration scale facility that we built in China at a steel mill. It operated for multiple years, and we're now building our very first commercial unit at the same location, and there we'll produce 60 million liters of ethanol. You can already see the bioreactors and the distillation unit in place. We're doing the same thing in Belgium. We're doing the same thing in India. And you can see we're going across the world in a variety of different industries with a variety of different gases. And of course, none of these guys would build this stuff unless they could recycle that carbon in an economic way. This is creating value from waste. If I could use 60% of the world's carbon gases today, we would be able to do the equivalent of taking 55 million cars off the road every year. That's impact. And in doing that, we have to put a lot of steel in the ground, which means we can create a lot of jobs, construction jobs and operating jobs. So I hope I've shown you flue stacks, carbon waste. It doesn't have to be a liability. Pollution is a choice. We can prevent this. We can recycle that pollution to make products, cleaning up our air, and making it easier to live in this world. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but did Jennifer just convince you that the impossible is possible? Anybody else? Literally converting millions of tons of carbon emissions into jet fuel and doing it today. Jennifer didn't mention her plant in China. That plant, after it runs for 1 year, is the equivalent of taking 88,000 cars off the road every single year. And she's going to be launching a lot of these all around the world. So don't be shy. Join her on her journey. That was the first wave of entrepreneurs. How did it feel? So in that wave, we were looking at the future of energy and communications, and now we're going to dive into the second wave. And we're going to look at the future of something that we consume every single day, which is food. First entrepreneur who's going to take us there is actually going to take us underground. We've been to outer space. We're now going to go beneath the surface of the Earth just a little bit, and Stephen Dring is going to tell us about his company growing underground. Stephen?
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Well, I grow fresh produce, but I seem to do it underneath the streets of London, as Daniel just told you. And before we start talking about our company and what we do at Growing Underground, I'd just kind of like to take a little bit of a step back and kind of explain, just ground you guys in why I'm here today and how I ended up here. Well, it kind of started with this. This is my pension letter from my old job. It's 2010. It tells me that I'll be retiring in 2040. And that kind of started the clock ticking. And it was kind of I wanted to at least leave the world in a slightly better place in which I joined it. And it kind of started me along this journey, and it gave me an urgency of now that I kind of needed to do something. I was concerned about climate change. I've redacted all the good bits. You can keep reading. It was the urgency of now, and I knew climate change was a massive issue for me. I was passionate about sustainability, and I was a really big fan of food. And so we all know the challenges that the global food system faces. We know we need to drastically reduce food miles, and we also know that we can't be flying salads around the world. We also need to look after our resources as well. 69% of fresh water in the world is used in agriculture. And then also, at the same time, we need to create new fertile lands. We've got 2 billion extra people on the planet by 2050. And we need to do this in areas where they're not affected by adverse weather, which we've seen so dramatically recently. So where do you find a solution to kind of overcome all of that? Well, the unlikely place that we found it was beneath our feet, and that was this place. It's a World War II air raid shelter, 35 meters underneath London, and it gave us a perfect 70,000 square feet. It allowed us to be a commercial-sized scale, and we started to repopulate it with hydroponics, LED lighting, and we started to create that new fertile land that I spoke about. And we first did this test. This is not us and Breaking Bad. This is all totally legitimate, I promise you. And I don't know why me and my business partner are kind of staring at each other pensively. It's a bizarre shot to show you anyway, but that was our first test of concept, proved that it worked, raised some money from investors, and then went on to build our farm. And we built something that's not only feasible, but scalable as well. And we're now supplying all the UK's retailers in London. And for us, we then started, the funny thing was we started to get people visit us from cities all around the world, and from cities in Australia and the US, China, Malaysia. And it wasn't just the largest cities in the world, it was also the cities that had the biggest constraints in terms of their resources as well. And what excited those guys was the same thing that excited us as well, which was our system. We have no agricultural runoff. We do drastically reduce food miles and virtually eliminate them. We've got all-round year production because we're not affected by adverse weather. There's no pesticides, and that resource that I talked about, water, we use 70% less of it. And all of our farm is powered by renewable energy. So our thoughts are, if we can grow in a tunnel, where else can we grow? Abandoned salt mines, old subway tunnels, underneath the desert, and in the future, on other planets as well. Thank you.
So now we're going to go from the UK, we're going to go back to India, and we're going to hear from an entrepreneur. Her name is Katie, and her company is working on a problem that nearly half of the world's population faces. Half of the world's population, almost, are small plot rural farmers. And most of them, the vast majority, are in desperate poverty. And Katie and her company are out to change that with solar-powered water irrigation systems. So let's give Katie a very warm round of applause.
At Caithworks, we make a solar-powered irrigation system that enables small plot farmers to cultivate their land year-round. Our product provides an alternative to depending on inconsistent monsoon rains or costly diesel pumps. Now, 85% of all the farms across India are small plot farms. So for 4 months of the year, these farms are provided with natural irrigation in the form of monsoon rains. But the remaining 8 months of the year, small plot farmers lack affordable ways to irrigate their land and grow food for their families. To truly understand the transformative power of affordable irrigation, I'd like to introduce you to Kumar Singh. He's the man on the right-hand side of this photo. I met Kumar back in January 2015 in his home village of Genesai in the state of Jharkhand in eastern India. Kumar is a farmer. His father was a farmer. His father was a farmer. And a couple years back, a local NGO helped Kumar to get access to a diesel pump. But even with access to this pump, Kumar still wasn't cultivating in the hottest, driest months of the year. And the reason was this. In the hottest times, plants need the most water. More water means more time running the pump. More time running the pump means more diesel fuel. and Kumar simply couldn't afford that added cost of diesel. So instead, what he did was he would spend months of the year traveling away from his family doing migratory labor in unsafe diamond mines. Now, since using the Caithworks solar-powered system, Kumar has cultivated his land year-round, resulting in his first ever dry season crop. And because he got to stay home, he also served as headmaster at his kids' school. Yeah, go Kumar. Now, when you take a step back and you see that Kumar is just one of 30 million such small plot farmers in eastern India alone, you can see that the potential for impact here is truly overflowing. 60% of all the farmland in India is dependent exclusively on monsoon rains, so those 4 months of the year. So what this means is that the majority of all the farms across India, for 75% of the year, lie unused. Now, for a country that in 5 short years will be the most populous on Earth, this is a massive food security issue. It's also a $1.5 billion opportunity in East India alone. At Caithworks, we make a solar-powered irrigation system that is perfectly fit for these small plot farmers. It's portable, it's reliable, and it's easy to use. But most importantly, it's 3 times more efficient than other pumps of its size on the market. Before we moved to India, we spent 2.5 years at MIT developing our proprietary technology. The cornerstone of this technology lies in our hyper-efficient pump. Now, this is why efficiency is important. High efficiency means low power requirements. Low power requirements means fewer solar panels. And fewer solar panels make the whole system more affordable to the farmer. In fact, farmers who switch from using diesel pumps to using the Caithworks system year-round can more than double their annual profits. Now, for a farmer like Kumar, this can be a truly life-changing proposition. We've had units in the field for over 2 years now, reaching farmers across 3 states in India. Supported by Tata Trust's Foundation for Innovation and Social Entrepreneurship, we have a vast network of NGOs that act as marketing pathways throughout the region. This year, we're growing our team and we're scaling up manufacturing to meet demand. At Caithworks, we are truly and deeply motivated by our mission, which is to give small plot farmers across the world an unprecedented level of control over their lives and livelihoods through affordable and high-quality technology. Thank you.
If you could buy one product that would double your profits for that year, would you buy it? Yes. The next entrepreneur we're going to welcome on the stage, I went to his website when we were analyzing his company, and I couldn't understand a word on the website because it was all written in Japanese. But I saw a video, and that video seemed like it was magic. The entrepreneur who's going to join the stage, his name's Hamada-san. He's going to show you that video. But I am going to ask that we give Hamada-san the loudest, most roaring round of applause you can give, because English is not his first language. This is hard work to communicate to all of you today. So let's give him the loudest round of applause possible. Hamada-san.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Agree for Design is a very, very small company, but very powerful. I found this company about 3 years ago, and before that, I was a researcher of National Agricultural Research Organization, and this autonomous unmanned tractor is developed by me about 8 years ago. Now, our company provides information system for farmers to help driving straight and keep same stable interval in field. Imagine, it's very, very difficult to driving straight and keep stable same interval in each row. Inconstant interval of truck roll causes waste of materials, just like fertilizer, pesticide, fuel, and of course time. And also damage to crops and decreasing yield or something. So there's GPS, GNSS guidance system is there, but these devices is extremely high cost. So we provide this GPS guidance system as application for Android OS, smartphone or tablet. It shows the line of reference, driver can go straight, and also show or record activity or farm works, and also show the colorized tracks that show the height map or speed map or something else. Fortunately, we have a head start. Over 70,000 of downloads came from almost all from outside of Japan. Now, 139 countries farmers uses our application, and totally 39,000 kilometers per month around the world in months. Wow. Thank you. So customers are also very satisfied. Someone said this app is really permanent GPS guidance. So our target is 10% of farmers worldwide and also 20% of agricultural machinery worldwide. In future, we will provide multiple autonomous unmanned tractors and also provide platform for scalable agricultural machinery and realize cloud farming, just like cloud computing. Thank you. We realize future of farming. We are Agri-Info Design. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamada-san. We're now going to venture from Japan. We're going to go to China. And Stuart is going to take us there as we continue to investigate the future of food and the future of farming. Let's give Stuart a very warm round of applause.
When I grow up, I want to be an urban farmer, said absolutely no one's child. Until I met Jin. Not a doctor, not an astronaut, but he told our team that he wanted to become an urban farmer. And for me, it was so promising and inspiring to hear such a bright young man say that this was the future for him. And if my team and our industry can continue to nurture his and his generation's passion and interest for food and agriculture, I think we can all agree that we're going to be in a great place. And the need for future food producers like Jin has never been greater. In fact, over the next 5 years, one of the largest migrations and demographic shifts in human history will be taking place, not here in the UK, unfortunately, but here in China. 250 million citizens will be entering Chinese city centers from their surrounding rural towns and villages, and the affluent and upper middle class urban population will grow to a staggering 570 million people. Now this shift, pretty small one, you may not notice it, will have an enormous stress and pressure on the existing infrastructure as well as basic human services. And one of the most directly and significantly that will be impacted is that of food production and food consumption. The demand for high quality, fresh produce will continue to grow exponentially. And unfortunately, the demand, or actually the access and the availability of these products is only available to a very few number of citizens. And Alaska Life was founded with the principle to democratize access to these products. So what we did was we started to build farms out of boxes. We built farm boxes out of shipping containers, out of underground parking structures, and even idle restaurant corners. Our facilities use less than 5% of the water, fertilizer, and land compared to traditional agriculture, and we use absolutely no chemical pesticides. But I guess one of the most unique things about our company is the fact that we have an innovative model of distributed food production. What this means is that we start the growth of the vegetable in a highly controlled, centralized facility. And then we finish the vegetables growth in an automated system installed directly at the point of consumption. And we run a hub and spoke model that allows us to deliver far higher quality, far more affordable produce for our customers. Some of the other added benefits of this model is that we can have significantly less food waste by being closer to the consumer. We have virtually no packaging waste, and also the shorter logistical supply chain. All of these things translate into higher profitability for the farmers that operate our systems. And I guess, what is the point? I mean, how valuable is it to be able to grow lettuce inside of a box? And so right now, our team is really excited by the fact that actually the development and the evolution of our technology and the broader industry ecosystem will allow us to grow far more than simple vegetables. In fact, some of the discussions that we're having is about using our facility to help endangered plant species propagate, to use our facility to be able to both research and manufacture veterinary medicines as well as nutraceutical products, and for our future systems to be even growing life-sustaining calories economically. Our team is developing technology that we believe will, in a very small way, contribute to the agricultural breakthrough of tomorrow. But I guess what's most exciting for me is that our team has the opportunity to inspire the next generation of urban farmers and to create rewarding and meaningful careers for young kids like Jin so that they can feed the many billions to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Next, we are going to continue going from food back to farming in the future of agriculture, and we're going to welcome an entrepreneur out here who has basically won every single award you can possibly win around helping the trajectory of where farmers are moving around the world. His name is Mattia, and we should give him, as we have done with everybody, a very warm round of applause. Mattia.
Hi. I believe that all farmers worldwide should have equal access to best practice knowledge and affordable technology. And why is it so important? Because agriculture, the world's biggest industry that employs 1.3 billion people worldwide, simply moves too slow. And it's actually hard to imagine that we can increase global food production by 60% to feed 9 billion people in 2050. 98% of all farmers worldwide are small and medium farmers. And in average, they produce 2 times less than big enterprise farms. So it's actually quite obvious. If we help them increase their productivity, we will solve the global food problem. But farming is actually a tough and tricky game. Only late crop protection takes over 30% of yields worldwide. And 30% of yields means 30% of revenue. And this means 0% in profits. So actually, it's quite hard to be profitable and sustainable as a farmer because there are many more challenges like that. And how do I know that? Well, I'm a farmer as well. And when I speak about it from my farmer's shoes. And we farmers, we understand that we need to take care of our planet when we farm. And we understand that farming is a business. And we really know that technology can support us. And this drives the strong growth of agricultural technology industry. But however, there is a catch, because suddenly everything became smart. And we farmers, we feel like we are lost in translation. So instead of getting support, we should use 20 different solutions a day. So that's not possible. And that's why we have created Agrivi, the complete farming ecosystem, the most powerful farming software ever. With Agrivi, we already help over 40,000 farmers worldwide to improve their productivity and profitability, and we help them manage all their farming activities on one central place. We push them best practices on how to achieve optimum yields. We alert them if there is a risk of pests or diseases on their fields, and we provide them simple insight into overall farm performance with a single click. And what's the best? We see that we can help them increase their profits up to 100%. So today, we already transform our industry. And we work with farmers of all scales, from small ones to big ones. but also with other stakeholders that are keen to improve agricultural productivity. We have contracts with food processing companies, we have contracts with input suppliers, but governments as well. And I'm very proud on my team because what we achieved in our last year is incredible. We doubled the number of farmers we reach, and we reach them in over 150 countries. Our sales increased. So we finally found a viable business model how to scale this kind of technology to farmers worldwide, and we have a dream team that lives our vision. And if your heart ticks when you think of solving a global food problem, then let's build a better future together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mattia. We were talking last night about how much they had grown since the program, the UK program, was nearly a year ago. And in the last 5 months, he 10x'd his company. So pretty remarkable growth, and they're on that type of trajectory. The next entrepreneur I'm going to bring out here is no exception to an exponential growth trend in their work and in their impact. This entrepreneur is coming from India. His name is Narayana. Let's welcome him to the stage.
I just tucked in my lunch, so pardon me, I still have food in my head. When we talk about food, we think about the taste, we talk about the components, the ingredients, we talk about the quantity, the quality, the hygiene. And why is it that we don't think about the utensils that come with the food? We are not aghast when we see a plastic spoon in our favorite mutton biryani or a lemon sundae. We just have taken plastic disposables as a way of life. Is it a way of life? It is a way of the market. It is a market that has forced us to adopt it as our way of life. We know plastic contains a whole lot of chemicals, toxins, they cause cancer, and these businessmen are interested in their profits and are continuously pushing only plastic. There are a whole lot of other alternatives, but just because they're expensive, they're not being accepted by the market. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to inform you that we have come out with an alternative which is as inexpensive and is edible. We make edible spoons, edible cutlery. These are made of millets. You don't believe me? You don't believe me? These are made of millets. We have selected millets because these are the cheapest among the food grains? No. Of course, these are very cheap. Cheapest among the food grains, but that's not the reason why we have selected millets. Millets stand for everything sustainable. These are hardy crops. They do not require irrigation, so production of raw material is not going to cause pressures on the water resources. These are hardy crops that do not require fertilizers or pesticides, so there is no farmland pollution. And these contain complex carbohydrates, and therefore they do not dissolve very easily even in hot liquids. So we even made soup spoons. We made a whole lot of stuff. And not just the raw material, we also have developed a process. The world's first fully automatic edible cutlery manufacturing machine is being designed and is working in Hyderabad in India, and it is energy efficient. Given all these things, we've been able to bring down the prices equal to the plastic cutlery. 100 pack spoon costs about $3.50, and a similar number in the United States is $4. So when you add your marketing overheads, logistics, and shipping and everything, it works out to $7.50. But as we start scaling up, the costs are going to come down. And then when we scale out, the logistics and the marketing overheads come down. And eventually, we are targeting a price point of $4. And the market is extremely pulling. We already, from a small prototype machine, we have produced 2 million spoons and sold all of them in India. And we got a pending order of 45 million spoons all over the world. And I am afraid of opening my mailbox. It's overflowing. I open it and more mails. I mean, I'm getting every day hundreds and hundreds and thousands of mails every day. I got redistributors, resellers all over the world. And now we are expanding, and now we are scaling up. And that is where we are. I'm very happy to share with you that I am living up to Mahatma Gandhi's, be the change you want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Narayana. Don't email him if you want to get in touch. Find him at intermission, certainly, and you can also get some of his spoons and eat them, I am sure of it. Next is the penultimate entrepreneur before intermission. So just 2 more left. So I'm going to ask you once more to sit on the edges of your seats. We're going to dive once more into sustainable food and where the future of protein may actually lie. And the entrepreneur who's going to give us a glimpse of where it's all heading is Megan, and her company is Biddy. Let's welcome Megan to the stage.
My company's name might be Biddy, but our mission is huge. We're creating the missing link in the food system to help feed billions of people. This is my son, Oscar, and I have another one coming soon. And as a parent, I'm optimistic about the future, but I'm also extremely concerned about some of the challenges that my children's generation is going to face. By the time Oscar is in his 30s, there will be 9 billion people on the planet, and our agricultural system as it exists today can't be scaled to feed everyone. One of the most pressing problems is the availability of protein, because protein is the most resource-intensive and the most expensive of the nutrients in the human diet. And there are dozens of companies actually trying to solve this protein problem using technologies like the one you see here, like making burgers out of stem cells. But at Biddy Foods, we're doing something different. We're harnessing an existing source of protein that's already here on Earth all around us. The planet's largest existing protein biomass is insects. Insects take barely any land or water to grow, and they produce 0 greenhouse gases, unlike pretty much any other source of meat that we have on the planet. And crickets carry pleasant cultural associations in many countries, which is why that's the species that we choose to focus on at Biddy Foods. Basically, crickets are pretty tasty as they are, but they have a major branding problem. That's why at Biddy Foods, we're creating a line of high-protein ingredients and consumer food products that remove the visual barriers to eating edible insects and showcase just how tasty they can be. These are our Churritos snack chips, which come in lots of delicious, spicy flavors, and you can buy them on Amazon if you like. But the core of our business is our ingredient business. We have a patent-pending baking flour that is purchased by food service, by nutrition NGOs, and military organizations. And we also are in the process of developing an amazing new protein isolate that can replace eggs and gluten in many food applications, which would be super interesting for food manufacturers because it can boost both the functionality and the nutrition of a wide range of products. And the nutrition of crickets, by the way, is impressive. As you can see here, crickets actually contain twice the protein of beef, 1.5 times the iron of spinach, and they're 18% healthy fats like the omega-3s found in salmon. And if insects became a part of the everyday global diet, we could make a huge dent in our environmental problems. We could reduce global food costs by up to 33% and reduce greenhouse gases globally by 18%. So I want to leave you with a thought. Food is culture, and culture changes. 100 years ago, Americans didn't eat very many lobsters. In fact, there was a law in the New England states that prisoners could only be fed 1 lobster per week because it was considered cruel and unusual punishment, because these were vermin. And now, obviously, we consider them a delicacy. And did you know that lobsters and crickets are cousins? They're both members of the arthropod family. So we at Biddy Foods are changing culture for the better of humanity, and we invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And the snacks are delicious. We serve them at our programs. I highly recommend that you give them a shot. Next entrepreneur is the last entrepreneur before we break and we get to meet and mix with everybody here. That entrepreneur is Kate Hoffman. She calls the UK, she calls London home, and her company is Grow Up Urban Farms. Let's give her a very warm welcome.
I'm I'm going to tell you a great story. The way we grow food now is unsustainable. With a growing population and more than 80% of people living in cities by 2050, there's a serious problem with a food system that already uses a significant amount of land and water, creates a significant amount of greenhouse gas emissions, and the result of which is we throw away tons of food all the way along the supply chain. We grow up urban farms, and we farm differently. We combine aquaponics and vertical farming to grow food in cities so that everyone can have access to a sustainably grown source of fresh, delicious food. Aquaponics is a combination of two well-established farming practices: aquaculture, farming fish, and hydroponics, growing in a nutrient solution without soil. We take the wastewater from the fish farm, and we use that as the nutrient base for our plants in our vertically stacked hydroponic system. And those salads are growing in a completely controlled environment, with lighting provided by LEDs and humidity, temperature, and irrigation optimized so that we can produce the same quality and quantity of food all years round. Well, that's the theory, and this is what it looks like in reality. We built, thanks, yeah. We built the UK's first aquaponic urban farm, capable of producing 20 tons of salads and 4 tons of fish every year. On this farm, we harvest to order, and our orders go out to customers within 12 hours, getting there super fresh. We're not just growing food, we're also growing people. We work with recruitment charities to hire young people in the area and give them the skills, jobs, and confidence they need to be urban farmers. Isn't that a great story? But here's the thing. There's a lot of awesome stuff about running a business, but there's also a lot of really unawesome stuff about running a business. And the stuff that's not awesome is quite hard to find slides for. Building a business is really hard, and it's especially hard if you're trying to tackle a really big problem. Everybody is really hopeful about what we're doing. And the more challenging a problem you're trying to solve, the more hope there is that you'll find a solution, and the harder it is to make it work. And everyone's really excited about what we're doing. And it's not just that we're more interesting than most of the software startups out there. It's also because people are humongously hopeful that we're going to solve a really big social and environmental problem. And reconciling that hopefulness to the commercial reality of setting up a business is quite a challenge.
Well said.
Thank you. And our commercial reality was that that farm that we built is a prototype. And prototypes, by their very nature, don't always work. And what we learned is that it's not enough to grow the best tasting salad that any chef has ever had on the coolest farm that you've ever seen. Because if you're not doing that at industrial scale, you can't actually compete with the existing supply chain. And we weren't able to produce a product that was packaged and ready to go on the shelves. The key to making that work is to do it at scale. And the farm that we built was not big enough. Which is why, on the same day that we were fortunate enough to be featured on primetime BBC 2, I had to sit my staff down and fire all of them as we sat down to close the farm. And that, thanks. That was the hardest presentation I ever had to give. We gave everyone a month's notice, and we then spent the next 4 weeks helping people, doing everything we could to find new jobs. And then we started to work on what came next, because of course, something is coming next. We are on a journey to fundamentally change the food system in the world, and this is not the end of the road. We are taking all of that learning, everything from our customers, complaints, feedback, what our staff told us about what works, what doesn't work, the processes, the data, the knowledge, and we are scaling up vertical controlled environment farming to be able to compete with the industrial supply chain that exists. Our next farm will be 10 times the size of the one that we've built now. It will be more water efficient, more energy efficient, and most importantly, it will produce a product that is of such high quality in terms of taste and food safety that there is nothing on the market already that can be compared to it. We have broadened our vision of what it means to be a sustainable business and grow sustainable food, and we are changing the scale at which urban farming is going to happen. Thank you.
So Kate said it well, entrepreneurship is hard. The only way that any of these entrepreneurs are going to achieve that next level of scale that we all know they are eventually going to achieve is with the help of everybody in this room. We have a belief at Unreasonable and at Barclays that, yes, business is business, but more so than anything, business is people. and it's all about relationships. So now we get the chance to dive in and meet the entrepreneurs. That is the end of the first session. What I'm going to ask everybody does, we're going to have a 15-minute intermission. But to grab all of your belongings, because you're likely not going to get the exact same seat that you have now when you come back, to grab all of your belongings, to join us outside, mix and mingle, and know that there are bathrooms downstairs. You can ask anyone on our staff where those are. But thank you so much for the first round of stories and compelling entrepreneurs out to change the world. Thank you all.